Joining us now is Republican Representative from Michigan, John Moolenaar. He's the chairman of that committee and announced the creation of this new group. Great to have you here, Congressman. Fentanyl is now the leading cause of death for Americans between 18 and 49. It crosses all political, socioeconomic lines. This is a new bipartisan group. What do you hope to do?
Well, first of all, I think it's important to point out, as you have, that the Mexican drug cartels are making tremendous profits in this, and a lot of American lives are being lost because of this. But until now, we have not seen the direct evidence of China and their involvement actually subsidizing, giving rebates to chemical companies to make the precursors, the ingredients that go into the fentanyl that's killing these Americans. And they are profiting tremendously and partnering with the Mexican drug cartels to do this. And it's being supported by their tax incentives.
You said, this really caught my eye, Congressman. You said, quote, China has programs in place to reward these companies with subsidies for exporting fentanyl and other drugs illegal under Chinese law to the United States. It is now abundantly clear that the CCP is not just turning a blind eye to the fentanyl crisis, it is causing it. You think China is causing this?
I think it's willful. It's not neglect. It's not turning a blind eye. It's intentional. And when you consider that President Xi Jinping met with President Biden last fall and pledged cooperation to help America with its fentanyl problem, at the same time, his government was subsidizing, encouraging, and making profits from this drug trade. And so we have to recognize that this is an intentional poisoning of Americans, and we need it to stop. And so we've formed a working group to look at this entire process where they're making the precursor chemicals, getting the equipment to the drug cartels, and profiting tremendously. And we need to stop this and penalize those who are doing this.
How did you find the evidence that China is actually paying off these pharmaceutical companies to make these chemicals?
You know, it's interesting. We have a team of researchers, investigators that looked at public information, websites in Mandarin Chinese, places that online were offering to sell these drugs. We actually found their tax incentive plan that gives rebates to these companies. Again, these are Chinese companies making a product that's illegal in China. It's also illegal in America, but they are getting a direct rebate, a financial incentive to export this. They can't make it and sell it in their own country, but they get rewarded for exporting it to countries like America.
So what do you think the motive is here? Why would Xi sit with President Biden last November and agree to stem the flow? About 6 weeks we saw that decreased and then it bounced right back. I mean, is China deliberately saying, let's poison Americans?
I believe there's a huge financial incentive. And I believe there are nefarious activities. You have to recognize this is the same Chinese Communist Party that is imprisoning, using slave labor, forced labor in Xinjiang province to make products. They oppress over 1 billion of their own people, taking away their freedoms. You look at what they've done in Hong Kong, imprisoning political oppositions. President Xi appears a very friendly, cooperative. He asks for collaboration on things, but we have to judge a person by their actions, and clearly this is intentional and very harmful for America.
Yeah, and by the way, it's just worth repeating, these chemicals that they're exporting to the cartels in Mexico to make the fentanyl that they then want, to come to America, these chemicals are illegal in China. I also just want to get your reaction to something that's very striking. Chinese leaders have echoed what the outgoing president of Mexico said. And he said, quote, this is an American problem. Addiction is uniquely American. Both leaders have denied that China or Mexico have addiction issues, much less an addiction crisis. What's your response to that?
Well, we know that's absolutely false. They are simply exploiting a vulnerability that we have as a country and profiting from it and willfully and intentionally doing us harm. And so The idea that this is an American problem, it's a problem in Europe, it's a problem wherever people have freedom and unfortunately make poor choices. But in this case, with fentanyl, people may think they're getting one drug, and it turns out to be a dangerous fentanyl that kills them, just a speck of it.
Yeah. Before I let you go, I want to ask you about this hearing you're holding tomorrow on China's pursuit to dominate the semiconductor, shipbuilding, and the drone industry. We see in Ukraine and in Israel already the important role that drones play in warfare. Your committee says that if war were to break out right now, the United States only has 177 military ships. China has 5,500.
You know, we're in a situation where half of the shipbuilding capacity going on right now is in China. 80% of the drones that are used domestically in the United States are manufactured by China. And when you consider that their capacity for legacy semiconductor chips, their investment surpassed all the investments of the countries throughout the world this past year. You realize they are strategically targeting industries where they hope to dominate, and then also use for military applications to threaten their people around the world. And so we're looking at these three areas, making sure that our companies can compete, making sure that we have the supply chain to protect our defenses and prepare and grow our economy.
Yeah, well, those semiconductor chips, especially the super chips that are made right now in Taiwan, are crucial to just about every single thing we use in our lives, much less weapons
You are
of
absolutely
defense.
right.
Yeah. All right. We'll be watching for the hearing. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Well, I just think one of the reasons they're so aggressive towards Taiwan is that 90% of the high-end chips are manufactured there, and they continue to threaten Taiwan, and we need to make sure that we help Taiwan defend itself from any kind of Chinese aggression.
Yeah, the whole world needs those chips made in Taiwan. They can't be made anyplace else, even though we're trying very hard to catch up. It's a lot of work. All right, Congressman John Moolenaar, thank you so much. We'll be watching for your hearing tomorrow. Really appreciate it.